Welcome to today's episode of Holistic Voices. We have a very exciting guest with us. For those of you just joining the podcast, we are Preslar Consulting. We specialize in helping health and wellness businesses scale their revenue. If you want to learn more how to take your wellness business to the next level, make sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the DMs. Today's guest is Kelly Ryan, founder of Anchor Meditation, corporate trainer, and certified meditation and breathwork facilitator. After an 18-year career in commercial real estate finance, Kelly transitioned into personal development and workplace wellness, helping companies build collaborative, connected, and compassionate cultures. Through her workshops and coaching programs, she blends brain science, positive psychology, and ancient wisdom to give people practical tools for emotional well-being. Kelly, thanks for being here. And please tell us about your background.
Thank you for having me. My background is I graduated from college and I had an 18-year career in commercial real estate financing. I loved that career. Um, However, around the time when I turned 40, I was in a kind of difficult situation within that career because of the dynamics at the place that I was working. And I was also going through some other health problems and personal problems. And so I went away for a week to a resort and they had a lot of wellness classes. And I took a mindful parenting class because I have two kids who are now college age. And in the mindful parenting class, the instructor said, if you're wishing the past were different or better than it is, you're living in the past. And if you're experiencing anxiety, it's caused by worrying about the future and catastrophizing all the worst case scenarios that might play out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I do both of those things a lot of the time. And, that means, of course, that we're not present right here, right now in the moment we are living. And so that kind of jolted me into awareness of those habitual patterns. And obviously, I wanted to be present as possible for raising kids and for enjoying my own life. And so I decided to start meditating and I took meditation classes while I was at this resort and kind of made myself a promise that when I came back to San Francisco, which is where my home and my family are, I would meditate every morning for 5 to 10 minutes before my husband and kids woke up. And so I started doing that and almost immediately started sleeping better, losing weight, huge reduction of the pain associated with the autoimmune disease that I was having at the time, and just felt way more connected spiritually and with myself and with other people who are important relationships in my life. So I was kind of like, honestly, what the heck is happening? Why hasn't anyone suggested meditation before? If it's actually what made me feel better than any medication I had ever been on for my psoriatic arthritis. And I started doing a lot of research and came to find out that stress is the root cause for inflammation, which is involved in nearly every disease that we experience. And so it makes perfect sense that meditation reduces your stress, reduces your inflammation, and you start to have all these wonderful outcomes. And so from there, one thing led to another, and I eventually decided to um, leave my corporate job in commercial real estate financing to open a meditation studio in San Francisco. And I did that until a couple years into COVID, when, of course, we had to shut down the studio. The city of San Francisco required us to be closed for over a year and a half.
Wow.
And by that point, I had uh, while I was operating the studio, participated in meditation teacher training, breathwork facilitator training, energy healing training, and during COVID had the opportunity to support a lot of people who were struggling one-on-one and in online classes and doing things with corporations. And I decided that I just actually preferred working with people one-on-one and working within corporations because um, It's just like a personal preference more than running the day-to-day operations of the studio, which was a lot more cumbersome on me and a lot less rewarding than working with people one-on-one and going into corporate environments and having kind of a larger long-term impact. So that's what I do now. I help high performers, mostly in their 30s and 40s, who maybe look successful on the outside but feel anxious and overwhelmed or unfulfilled on the inside. And my work kind of blends the neuroscience and the energy practices and spiritual psychology to help them release stress patterns and reconnect with themselves and reclaim their joy so that they can finally feel the peace and purpose and freedom that they desire and enjoy living the beautiful life that they've worked so hard to create. So, um, I work with individuals, sometimes uh, one-on-one, sometimes with couples, and sometimes going in regularly to corporate environments and supporting their teams and their growth.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. I think that a lot of people probably don't realize how common that is, right? Especially in the high performer. Or I have a friend who is an executive for a multi-billion-dollar company, and he is one of the most like high-strung people I know, right? Like really just, but looks like he has it together all the time, right? But inside, exactly what you just described. Inside, he's like, and you have to remind me, is it sympathetic overdrive? It's sympathetic overdrive, right?
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
like he is in sympathetic overdrive, right? It's just
Yeah.
but he looks put together, right? Like you would never
So did
yeah.
I. Little did I realize that I wasn't. But yeah, there's a bunch of unique issues that high achievers face because usually the cost of high achievement is that we've been very focused on um, people pleasing and succeeding and being a perfectionist to get to where we are in life. But inside, when we get there, we often feel anxious and overwhelmed and empty. And so I help people resolve the gap between I should be happy and why don't I feel it by showing them how to experience inner peace and joy and purpose without sacrificing their ambition.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I used to meditate every day. I haven't done that for years, but
I encourage you to
yeah.
get back to it.
Yeah, I should, because I know it's good. I know it's good. Like I know the positive impact that it has. Um
Yeah, yeah. I think, a lot of high achievers live in a constant state of pressure and overthinking and performance, but it's possible to rewire their nervous system and release stress patterns and finally stop running on autopilot and start living from a more grounded, empowered state. So, um,
right, because essentially you're creating new neural pathways, right? And breaking those habits of producing all these cortisol and these other chemicals that are
that's right.
contributing to all this overdrive.
Exactly. A lot of people have just habitual patterns that we were programmed from the time we were 0 to 7 years old to these automatic thought patterns, but they can be changed because our brain is completely moldable and can be rewired. And so I work with people to kind of see where they might be stuck in patterns based in fear or control or lack or shame and rewire some of those patterns.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's great. I think yeah, I think it's very common. I think a lot of people s- suffer with these patterns.
That's true. And it's completely unnecessary suffering. So we have free will to do something about it if we want to. And it's not easy. And sometimes you have to, take a hard look at your life and see if you're living it in a way that's centered on what matters most to you. But it's a beautiful opportunity to intentionally learn to create a life that you love in terms of your relationship and your health and your wealth, and really increase your happiness and fulfillment as a result of that.
Right. Yes, which is more important than right than the than the rat race.
I think so. I
Oh,
think anyone, who's on their deathbed would probably be happier that they meditated and intentionally created a life that they loved.
right. Right. Yeah, I think it's easy to get caught in these negative cycles.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
so as of right now then you're not is anchor meditation, is that still functioning or
Anchor meditation so it's no longer a physical
okay.
studio in San Francisco. I see people in a private office, or I work with people online, or I go into corporate settings or work with them online. Yeah. So I
Okay.
still operate under the name Anchor Meditation, but it's not an actual studio at this point in time.
Okay, gotcha. Um what shifts are you seeing in how companies approach workplace wellness, especially around emotional health and burnout prevention?
Yeah, I'm very excited about the shifts that I've seen over the past few years. I'm also very excited about the younger generation workforce who almost insist in large part on having work-life balance, and are very attuned to their mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health, and it's all integrated. And so corporations are responding to that either by choice or by force in order to keep those employees and help them live more balanced lifestyles. And so I have seen actually a tremendous amount of openness and support and resources going towards mental and emotional health. So that is exciting to see.
Great. I
Yeah.
didn't realize it was that positive of a movement. So that's great.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not everywhere, but
Yeah.
I think even like I've even worked with law firms, which oftentimes are, some of the more old-fashioned ways of doing business, as far as I can tell. But when the younger people in the workforce ask to have resources from someone like me or another provider, the corporations typically will respond because they value those employees, and they want to keep them mentally healthy and emotionally well so that they can have positive contributions at work. And the interesting thing that I wish more people understood is that when we're in a stress response, so when we go into fight, flight, flee, or fawn, which there was a Harvard study done in the 1980s, and at that time, the average person went into it 15 to 20 times a day. And I've heard that today it's more like upwards of 40 times. What happens is we lose our connection from our amygdala, which is the older part of our brain, to our prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for all of our executive functioning and planning and decision making and clarity and creativity. And so if a corporation is smart, they will want their employees to be less stressed so that they have more access to this part of their brain and can perform better at work. And when we are going into stress responses multiple times a day, at one point in our evolution, it was really helpful because if we were foraging for food in a jungle and being chased by a tiger, we needed that stress to help us run faster and get out of danger. But today we're typically going to maybe buy some food at Whole Foods, and someone steals our parking spot, and we go into that same stress response, and it's just not an appropriate response to the moment at hand. But we get triggered because we feel unseen or unheard or unloved or lack of belonging or lack of safety. And we go into that stress response, and you're exactly right. It raises our cortisol, all these toxic chemicals and hormone balances. Our heart rate goes up, our blood pressure goes up, all the things. And because we go into it so frequently throughout the day, or many people do, our body wants to be efficient. And so it finally goes, well, she's just going to keep going, all the way up here. So instead of coming down to a state of homeostasis and rest and relaxation, which is where we have our clarity and our creativity, I'm only going to come halfway down. So I'm going to keep those cortisol levels high all the time and keep the blood pressure going high all the time. And that's what causes conditions of chronic stress. And most people are walking around in a state of chronic stress.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. I would think that would probably be the reality.
Yeah, unfortunately it is.
What can you walk us through, speaking of that, can you walk us through the 6 pillars of your framework and how they show up in organizations?
I do, yes. I actually have 7 pillars. So the first pillar is
Oh, there's 7.
intention. 7. Yeah, the first pillar is intention, and that is just it's so important for us to, at the beginning of every day, every week, every month, every year, set an intention to what we would truly like to create in our life and how we want to be and how we want to feel. So, intention is really, what would I truly love? What do I desire? And how do I feel? Because when you get that clarity on, I want to feel ease and joy and freedom, it makes it a lot easier energetically to make decisions, because when someone invites you to do something or asks you to take on a new project, you can reflect on, is it going to bring me ease? Is it going to bring me freedom? Is it going to bring me joy? And if the answer is yes, then I have the energy for this project. I have the capacity for this project, and it's going to be a positive contribution to my life. If the answer is no, then it's you waste a lot less energy debating and going back and forth and stuff. So that's intention. And then the second pillar is relaxation. And it's just so important for us to intentionally build relaxation and rest into our routines. That's the reason why we have access to our best ideas and inspiration when we're going for a walk or taking a shower or like taking a nap or looking out the window. But because people are so tethered to their devices and social media and emails and reactive to all of that, it's important to intentionally carve out rest in our lives. And so I help people find tools and habits to do that. Then the third pillar is compassion. And that's just a lot of people are either their own worst inner critics or extremely judgmental of other people. And some of us are both, and that's okay. But we don't need to be that way. And we can choose to have a much more kind, compassionate, understanding relationship with ourselves. So instead of berating ourselves or beating ourselves up or saying I'm never good enough or there's never enough time or all the kind of limiting beliefs and negative thoughts, we can um, actually apply love to the parts of us that hurt, to the parts of us that are frightened, to the parts of us that are ashamed, and it's love that heals. So we can heal those kind of frightened parts of us or wounded parts of ourselves by giving ourselves the compassion that we didn't receive at the time that we needed it, right? Because when we go through difficult circumstances earlier in life and we don't have the tools to adequately process our emotions, they get stuck in our physical body and our energy body. And so processing those emotions and applying compassion or um, finding the ability to express our needs are currently can be very helpful. And then also compassion for other people, with the understanding that hurt people, that just like me, this person wants to be happy. Just like me, this person's doing the best that they can, and kind of understanding how past traumas, whether there was, physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional neglect, caregiver incarceration, caregiver addiction, all of those things that we have all experienced to some level in life carry a lasting impact on us. And so we all have a great opportunity to have compassion for other people and the struggles that they've gone through, and see the best in each other, I guess. After that is emotional awareness, and emotional awareness goes back to the kind of processing of unprocessing emotions, of learning how to be with our current emotions. So, the interesting thing is emotions only last 90 seconds. So they rise and peak and subside in 90 seconds if you just be with them. So I recently became an empty nester. It's very sad saying goodbye to both your kids at college. When I'm with that sadness, instead of trying to avoid it or suppress it or ignore it or make myself overly busy or drink too much, I just allow myself, like, yeah, it's normal to be sad when you just spent 20 years raising kids.
Hmm.
Sadness is telling me that I've lost something important, and that was an important phase in my life, and I poured a lot of love into it, and I love being with my kids and I miss them. So it's okay to be sad, and I just kind of sit there and will maybe cry for a minute or just have a little heartache for a minute, and the sadness passes. What makes emotions stay around way longer than 90 seconds, right? Because I know there were periods of my life where I carried around anger or grief for decades, is the stories that we make them mean, the thoughts that we have about them, like, I don't want to feel sad, or I hate feeling sad, or that person, I'm blaming that person or situation for making me sad. Those stories will cause the feelings and emotions to persist quite a bit longer. And then after emotional awareness is, sorry, I'm skipping one. I'll have to come back to it when my memory returns. But the last one is manifestation. And that's just really, we are co-creating our lives. Our thoughts have energy. Our emotions are energy and motion. We are the source of all of our emotions. So we have the ability to tune into peace and remember a moment of peace and bring peace to ourselves, or to tune into abundance and look around at the abundance all around us in nature, and the stars in the sky and the trees, the flowers, the blades of grass, and realize too that we are part of that piece. So we can generate good feeling emotions, which flood our body with good feeling hormones and chemicals, and really elevate our vibrational frequency. And from that place, we become much more open and available to create the transformations that we want in our life. And then I do remember the one that I skipped is brain training. And brain training is just a process of noticing, every time we sit down to meditate, our mind, just our lungs are going to keep breathing, our heart is going to keep beating, and our mind is going to keep thinking. So a lot of people feel that they're not meditating right because they can't stop thinking. The purpose of meditation is not to stop thinking. It's actually to notice your thoughts and bring yourself back to, typically your breath. Typically, I have people anchor in their in breath and their out breath. So notice when your mind wanders, when you start thinking of your to-do list, or that thing that happened earlier today that was annoying, or that person who you're dreading seeing, or whatever, and just bring yourself back to your breath. Notice when your mind wanders, bring yourself back to your breath. And just like when we go to the gym and we lift weights and we strengthen our bicep each time we lift a weight, when we meditate, each time we notice our thoughts wandering and bring ourselves back to the present moment, to our breath, we're strengthening our ability to notice our thoughts. And that is hugely important, because when we notice our thoughts, we gain a tremendous amount of freedom and empowerment, because we don't have to just passively follow or believe all of our thoughts. And so you can start questioning, is this thought true? Is this thought fact or fiction? Is this me thinking this, or is this me hearing like the voice of my parent or teacher when I was, a little girl or boy who told me, you never pay enough attention or whatever. And then we start adopting that voice and speaking to ourselves that way. So it's extremely important that we become aware of the inner dialogue that we're having with ourself, because the relationship with ourself is the most important relationship in our life. And so we can actually start thinking purposeful thoughts and affirming what we do want and things of that nature, which then with practice and repetition create new neural pathways and eventually become our default thoughts.
Great. Yeah, I think that's very organized as far as your pillar system goes, and I can see how they all connect and work together.
Thank you.
How did I get six?
I used to have six,
Oh,
and I weaved intention through all of them. So you are probably maybe reading something that I haven't updated on the internet, but
okay.
I should have updated it by now because I've been doing seven for a couple years now. So
Okay, I was just making
intention is just, I used to just, intention is woven into everything, but I like to call it out because it is, I believe, that important.
right. Yeah, I think intention is important. What as far as a business goes, what's going really well for you right now?
What's going really well for me is working with private clients. I love working with young couples. That's one of my favorite things to do. I love supporting people who are young parents who are balancing the, career, the desires for success at career and the desires for a well-balanced family life and something that is centered on what matters most to the family. I really love helping them intentionally create that for their careers, for their kids, for themselves. So yeah, those are some of the things that are working really well. And I also love going into corporations and bringing some more ease and peace and mindfulness and collaboration and connection into the corporate work environments. And I think more and more as the world is changing and as people are working remotely and everything, people are deeply longing for meaning and connection. And it's been really well received. So I'm enjoying more and more opportunities to support corporations. And I used to kind of worry that it was too soft for corporate environments, or some people wouldn't be open to it or anything. But what I've found is just, I don't know, the world seems to be evolving and people seem to be really ready to um, have opportunities to relieve the stress and pressure and busyness and overwhelm and find some stillness and some peace within themselves. So I think it's a tremendous value for any corporation to bring this type of offering to their employees.
I agree. I think that's great. I think that's really cool that it's being received so well. What on the flip side, what's been the most challenging?
What has been the most challenging? Most of my private clients are like from word of mouth, and that's the same is true for my corporate clients. I'll go into one corporation and then the people who plan these types of things at corporations seem to network together. So they'll say, "Oh, we did this great thing and you should reach out to Kelly." And so word of mouth is working great, and I'm so thankful for that. And what has been more challenging is finding a way to reach new customers or new corporate opportunities online or through cold reach out. That has been challenging. When I had the studio, I used a lot of Facebook ads and Google ads very successfully. What I found when I transitioned into my private practice was that uh, those Facebook and Google ads haven't been as effective in generating new leads that are qualified.
That makes sense. Yeah, because you've kind of entered into this very I guess, a smaller niche, right? Like this specialized niche.
Yeah, it's pretty highly specialized and it's also like pretty different. So I think it's hard sometimes for unless someone has a friend who I've worked with who talks about their experience of working with me and the transformations and the realizations and everything like that. I think it's a little hard to understand like what's the difference between what I'm offering and traditional therapy or whatnot, because it's kind of a truly a blend of life coaching where I'll check in with people much like a therapy appointment, but I will kind of be reading for their thought patterns and energy patterns and things like that, and doing some coaching and then sharing some, neuroscience and psychology and energy practices with them. And then in each session, I lead them through an actual meditation or breath work or energy healing process. And I think that that is, um, you know, I, I hope that people understand the importance of that, because it's one thing to understand these concepts on an intellectual level, but in order to live them, you need to embody them through experiencing them yourselves. And so it's really the practices that I take people through allow the opportunity for them to absorb the knowledge into their own physical body and lived experience. And that's what creates the transformation.
Well, yeah, I think that's amazing. I I think it's going to be really interesting to see this be adopted more by people in general. Although I do agree, I think everybody can benefit from it.
It's really that's another challenge I've had is niching, because every single person who I've ever worked with has benefited from it. I've worked with kids as young as 9-year-olds and older people well into their 70s who have a variety of different goals or issues that they are maybe working through. And it does work for everyone. So it is a little hard for me to say, I only work with women or I only work with couples or I only, because it's just kind of universally what the world needs right now, in my opinion.
Right. Yes, I agree. What looking 6 to 12 months ahead, what would success look like for you?
Oh, I love that question. Well, so over the next 6 months, my intention is to expand my practice quite a bit because, like I said, I literally just within the past month dropped my second off at college. And so I have a lot more capacity. And I'm actually launching my own podcast, which I'm
Oh,
very
nice.
excited about. Yeah. It's called Aligned and Alive from Within, but I haven't even launched the first episode. So that's going to be coming out soon. And I'm hoping that that will maybe provide a way for me to reach a broader audience, support more people who don't have access to this type of information and practices, just with some free content and free offerings. And I would like to take on maybe one or two more corporate clients and about 5 more private clients. So yeah, that's what the next year, what I'm hoping that brings for me.
Yeah, I think that sounds amazing. I hope that you achieve all that.
I appreciate it.
What it sounds like you've had a great journey so far. Within the mention of expansion in the next 12 months, hypothetically, if you had a magic wand to fix one thing in your business right now that's either holding you back or slowing down your progress towards that goal, what would that one thing be?
Think the one thing would be to just get qualified new leads, because reaching out to people within corporations, even though I come from the corporate world and I understand it very well, there tends to be a lot of navigation to like the right person that would be hiring someone like me to come in for the right opportunity and the budget and all of that. Yeah, so I think just cracking the code on how to get qualified corporate leads and qualified private client leads would be amazing.
Right? Yes. I mean, it sounds like it. Um, well, yeah, Kelly, this has been fantastic. And yeah, I love your helping workplaces and individual access, practical tools, and emotional well-being. For listeners who want to connect with you or explore, do you offer any workshops or courses?
I do. Yeah. You can go to anchormeditation.com or you can follow Anchor Meditation on Instagram. And that's where you can find some free resources and announcements on upcoming workshops. There's some, free opt-ins and things like that. So I would love for anyone to find me there. And on the website, there is a corporate tab for anyone interested in bringing me in for corporate opportunities. And there's a private client tab for anyone interested in exploring a complimentary consultation to see if that's a good fit.
Amazing. Amazing. We'll link everything in the description down in the show notes. But thanks again for joining us on Holistic Voices. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, and stay tuned for more conversations with leaders in health and wellness. And thank you, Kelly.
Thank you so much,
Yep.
Jared, for the opportunity. It was so nice to be with you today, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.